Okay, as I promised in my last video, I was going to focus a little bit on John Huber. He is Anthony Huber's father, and Anthony Huber, of course, was one of those shot and killed by Kyle Rittenhouse that night in Kenosha. And John Huber is going to be given the opportunity to speak here at Kyle Rittenhouse's bail hearing. He's going to make a total fool of himself. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dredd to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dredd Show.
So let's go ahead and listen in. First of all, I think we're going to be listening to Mark Richards, who is Kyle's attorney, who's going to give an actual accurate representation of what actually took place that night. And how do we know it's accurate? Because we have it on videotape.
Is full of material omissions, whether through negligence or through recklessness. It doesn't talk about Mr. Rosenbaum chasing my client while masked, covering his identity. It doesn't talk about Mr. Ziminski, his partner, firing the first shot at my client. When my client is running down the road trying to get away, he goes and Mr. Groskowitz approaches him and goes, "Where are you going?" "Going to turn myself into the police," which he tried. It's on video. My client is 17 years old. He has no prior juvenile, no other record whatsoever. He has ties to the community. His father lives in the community. He worked in the community. The self-defense claim in this case is overwhelming. It's on videotape. And under all of those circumstances, $750,000 and electronic monitoring is more than sufficient. We have no objection to the non-monetary conditions, but at a certain point, the state can bury their head in the sand. And in reality, who struck my client first? Who attacked my client first? Mr. Rosenbaum, the decedent. My client's running down towards the police line when he's attacked by a mob. We're not talking about demonstrators. We're talking about rioters who had ill intent in their heart, and unfortunately, they came in second.
Now, everything he said there is absolutely correct, except for one thing. He claims that Ziminski fired his weapon at Kyle. More likely, he fired it up in the air or in some undisclosed location. I don't think that he actually shot at Kyle. Judging by the video evidence, I just don't see that. But everything else there is right, spot on. And you notice John Huber shaking his head back and forth, shaking his head. He's getting really irritated. But absolutely, everything that Mark Richards says is spot on here. And I don't see any reason why anybody would disagree with it if they have looked at the evidence.
All right, thank you, Mr. Richards. Court's aware these are allegations, but they are the most serious of allegations. They're incredibly serious. And again, if a conviction occurs, and only obviously if a conviction occurs, the defendant would likely face either life imprisonment or an imposition of many decades.
Okay, and so what the judge is saying is that even though Mark Richards may have a great case for Kyle, at a bail hearing, it doesn't matter. A bail hearing basically operates according to the principle of prima facie, which basically states that the prosecution's claims are going to be taken at face value. So Kyle is accused of murder, and you have to treat him as a murderer as far as setting bail goes. And Mark Richards kind of knows that. He's going to go ahead and present this argument that Kyle acted in self-defense for mostly posterity reasons. I mean, the public is going to watch this, and so they're going to be swayed by what they hear here. Mark Richards knows very well that the judge is not simply going to say, well, since the defendant has a pretty good self-defense case, I think we should go ahead and we should lower the bail amount.
Oh, I'm sorry. Also, before I go further, though, I do want to hear from the victims, if I could, if they do wish to be heard in this part. Mr.
Oh, you can bet that John Huber wants to be heard.
Huber, do you wish to be heard, sir? You'll have to unmute yourself then, sir.
Hey, Huber, unmute yourself, dummy.
Mr. Huber, you're on mute. Can you unmute your device?
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, Your Honor. I would like to say that, this Kyle guy is a flight risk. He's facing long time in prison. And he has people out there that will help him, organizations of militia members that are raising money for his defense right now. They can harbor him. He can
Your Honor, I'm going to
hide out
object
in
to
there.
this. There's no basis in fact or law.
Mr. Rick,
Yeah, there is no basis for this. This is just a wild claim. The judge is going to kick in and say, look, I'm going to go ahead and let everybody say what they want. I don't think the judge is swayed by this, to be honest with you. It's pretty wild to say that. Well, it's not so much that it's wild to say it, but you have to have some basis for it. And he doesn't really have any. He's just making this up.
Mr. Richards, that's Mr. Huber's opinion. He may state his opinion pursuant to the current status of the law in Wisconsin. I'm going to allow him to state that position. What I take into account may be different. But at this point, Mr. Huber is allowed to state his position as a victim in this matter. Go ahead, Mr. Huber.
The judge probably knows enough about the case to know that John Huber is full of shit here, but he's basically going to go ahead and let Huber say his piece. Whether the judge knows much about what's going on in terms of the case is uncertain. A judge is not really supposed to investigate the evidence at this point. There has not been a disclosure meeting, and so they haven't had any opportunity to actually collect the evidence. But I think that the judge probably knows that Huber is like really freewheeling it here.
Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse thinks he's above the law. He's been treated as such by law enforcement. And so he believes he's justified in this case. And for him to run wouldn't surprise me. And this defense of self-defense, that is impossible.
Impossible is a pretty big word to be throwing around. Self-defense is impossible? Are you kidding me? Self-defense is almost a certainty in this case here.
It's impossible. I don't know what part of the video you watched, but he already killed the guy, shot him in the head, and then tried to run. And
Okay, so he's invoking one of my dumb arguments that I have exposed in the past, that he shot two people. He shot three people. We know, John, that he shot three people. No one is denying that. The question is whether this is a self-defense case. And if it's self-defense, then the fact that he shot three people is what we call an affirmative defense, and therefore it's fully justified. Now, again, the bail hearing is not a place to be bandying about whether the self-defense claim is valid or not. Just to say that he shot three people is so inherently obvious. I mean, nobody in that room disagrees with that.
My son was a hero. He tried to stop him, and so did everybody else. He was an
Yeah, we'll take a look at that in a moment. We'll just see how big of a hero he was.
active shooter, and he tried to flee, and my son lost his life protecting other people. He was a hero. And anyone who says otherwise is dead wrong, including the president, to comment on that.
Of what possible relevance is the president in this proceeding? This is a bail hearing for Kyle Rittenhouse. It doesn't matter what the president says. And so invoking that, again, this is a political trial. And so he's bringing up President Trump. And I think that John Huber kind of knows that in that state, that's probably going to hold sway with some people. But the President of the United States' views on this are completely irrelevant to whether Kyle should get a bail or not.
How dare he? He needs to just stay on Twitter.
He needs to just stay on Twitter. Okay. All right, go ahead and shoot your mouth off there, John.
He already admitted to killing two people in Antioch. He told the police, I killed two white guys.
Correct, because you can't claim self-defense unless you actually make it known that you did the act deliberately. A lot of people just don't know the law.
Okay, so he's already admitted it. And, people buying him an assault weapon, they're responsible also. Who gives a kid an assault weapon? Says, oh, go to...
Okay, this is called a rant. By the way, it would work against Kyle more if he didn't admit to it. If he claimed that he did not do any of the killings, that actually would work more against him in this case, because people would say he's even denying having been involved in this at all, and therefore he's even a bigger flight risk. The fact that he's admitted to the killings is evidence of some level of honesty. But then he goes on to go after the people who got Kyle the assault rifle. Not an assault rifle, it's a sporting rifle, but whatever the case, this is a bail hearing for Kyle. What is he trying to get accomplished here? I have no idea. In my opinion, he's just kind of a fool.
Go to Wisconsin. This is what we're up against here. It's not about self-defense anywhere. And
it's very much about self-defense. Regardless of whether you think he acted in self-defense, by the way, it is about self-defense. And you're a fool if you believe otherwise. And so he's a fool.
If you can double his cash bond, that's what I'm for. I'm for doubling his bond. It should be $4 or $10 million, because there's people out there raising money right now, making it their own fight, that it's about gun rights, and it's not about gun rights. My son was killed. Another man was killed. They didn't deserve to be killed. Okay,
so his argument is that we should raise that up to $10 million because there's people out there who are working to raise the money. And so what he is saying is raise the bail up so high that the defendant can't possibly afford it. But then that would actually be unconstitutional. You can't raise bail up so much just to prevent somebody from being able to get bail, because at that point you might as well just not give them bail at all. So that's a kind of a stupid argument there. And then he starts to talking about gun rights and stuff like that, and this has nothing to do with gun rights. This is about a self-defense case.
And we don't have that society where we just let people go and kill people and say, oh, you guys, we'll push them down there and you guys kill them down there. Because that's what the police did here.
Now we're going to invoke the police. What relevance is that to Kyle's bail hearing? I mean, I get it. He's pretty upset and he's pretty uptight. But at some point, if you're going to be addressing a judge about your son's killer, you would want to at least focus your arguments on why his bail should be high.
And the police weren't doing their job, or else they wouldn't have asked for these people to come around. He was...
So we're going to go after the police in Kyle's bail hearing.
2 businesses away when he chased that guy down and shot him in the head. That's far. He chased him down to kill him.
Wait, what? Let's see if I have this right, John. Kyle chased Rosenbaum and to shoot him in the head. Okay, well, let's see here. What does the video suggest?
3. A man who police identified as Rittenhouse runs a...
Gee, it kind of looks to me like, okay, the guy on the left is Kyle Rittenhouse because the person's carrying a gun. And the one on the right, well, that's Joseph Rosenbaum. And if I'm not mistaken, the velocity vector for both of those guys is pointing to the left, which would indicate to me that Joseph Rosenbaum is in fact chasing Kyle Rittenhouse and not the other way around. Now, how could he get such a basic fact so screwed up? He has had to have seen the video. I cannot imagine anybody who watches this video or anything the surrounding this case would think that it was Kyle Rittenhouse chasing after Rosenbaum. So why is he saying this? Maybe he's mistaken. If so, he is quite possibly one of the most ignorant people you can imagine. It's not like the Kyle Rittenhouse saga is outside his wheelhouse. He has to be interested in this. His son died this night. So how could he be so ignorant of what took place here? Or perhaps he just wants to get this message out to the public. He knows that the public is going to be watching these hearings, and he wants a certain segment of the public to think, oh, I didn't know. I mean, like Rittenhouse chase after Rosenbaum. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. It was Rittenhouse that was the primary aggressor. I don't know.
The guy was unarmed. And my son was unarmed. He hit him in the shoulder with a skateboard.
Okay, well, first of all, that's not unarmed. I mean, by the very definition of armed, his son took a hard object and hit Kyle in the base of the head with it. That is being armed. You look at the definition in the actual Wisconsin statutes, Anthony Huber was armed that day. Can a skateboard kill somebody? Yes, we have evidence of that. In Eureka, a man was killed by one. He was hit in the abdomen, and he died from internal bleeding. He wasn't even hit in the head. Can a skateboard kill Kyle? Yeah, absolutely. That was a deadly weapon in the way that Anthony Huber used it. To say that his son was unarmed is just plain false.
You know, he was a hero. Anyways, that's all I have.
Let's take a look at Anthony Huber. Now, we have all seen the case where he is basically cracking the thing down on Kyle's skull. Let's take a look at him earlier in the evening. What we have here is the case. This is right after Kyle shot Rosenbaum. Kyle is running down the street to turn himself into the police. The police are down the street. Everybody knows that. Everybody can see them. And Kyle is running in that direction. Now watch.
Okay, Kyle Rittenhouse is right here. Right there. And Gage Grosskreutz is actually going to run up and talk to him. I have video of what goes on between the two of them that we'll get into later.
Yes, Kyle is such a threat to the community. He is an active shooter. Everybody is in fear of their lives of this madman. So what does Gage Grosskreutz do? He runs up alongside him and starts to question him. Yeah, that's how dangerous Kyle really was.
That's Anthony Huber with his skateboard.
Kind of looks like Anthony's chasing after Kyle. And by the way, you can see him right down there. There's your police. That's where Kyle's trying to run. And Anthony is going to come up from behind him and crack his skateboard over his head. Anthony Huber wasn't trying to protect the community. He saw what he thought was a right-winger by himself with a mob chasing after him, and he thought he could get some licks in on him. So at any rate, John Huber, you're living in your own reality. Your son is not as innocent as you think. And we know he has a violent past. We see his criminal record. Kyle doesn't have one. Well, he doesn't have one till now, until your son decided to try to take him out as he was running to the police. Yeah, I don't feel sorry for you. I think that you're doing this on purpose. I think you know fully well that Rosenbaum chased Kyle. I think you're just trying to feed the public misinformation on this. Grieving father? Yeah, I get it. But there's a limit as to what you can do in those circumstances. And essentially, you're all essentially trying to frame a person that your son attacked. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.